And right now, I want to engage Victor Ogalo, who is the head of Public-Private Dialogue and Policy Research Analysis at KEPSA. Ogalo, looking at our SME ecosystem, how equipped are they to utilize these e-commerce platforms in a way that will add value to their businesses?
Thank you very much, Noah, for hosting me this afternoon. I noticed there was a very interesting occurrence in Matungo, and I think that's also good for our country. But I think let's now come to the main business of this particular session. You asked whether our SMEs are, how prepared they are. I would tell you that they are not prepared. And actually, that's why we have this particular intervention on e-commerce booster program initiated by the Kenya Private Sector Alliance with support from the European Union and FCDO from UK and our partner Trademark East Africa. The same way as a country we were not prepared when COVID came in. We didn't have the systems in place to deal with COVID, and again, many businesses were actually not prepared to deal with the impact of COVID. So whether it's in terms of the investment that put in place, like to help them transition to a digitized business operation, or to make use of e-commerce opportunities when the protocols inhibiting interactions of people were put in place. So you find that many businesses could now not reach their clients, and again, clients could hardly reach the retailers where they're buying things. So that particular shock meant that a number of businesses closed, and when they closed, many businesses also terminated their employees. Some allowed their employees to go on leave for long. Some exhausted their leaves and now are on unpaid leave for long. We have about 17 million Kenyans who are affected by this in terms of employment. And looking back, over the first 6 months when COVID hit us badly, we thought as KEPSA, how could we help our members to stay afloat? And that's when we came up with a program on e-commerce booster program, because when human interactions were limited, we realized that actually we could bridge that particular gap through technology. And so that is why we have this particular program to enable businesses still reach their clients, but on an electronic platform called e-commerce. Okay. Yes, no. Victor, you want to ask something?
The issue now, the nitty-gritties. What exactly are the plans and the program itself? What exactly does it do to these MSMEs? Are you supplying them with the skills? Apart from the skills, maybe there's the hard instrument requirements. How exactly are you facilitating this particular move?
A major component of this particular program is on training. First, we realized that we have to train them to understand how to do this, how to get on board e-commerce. What is this particular concept called e-commerce? Because many businesses do not know. We see a lot of trends where people are now purchasing things online, but for a number of businesses, the typical micro, a typical hawker, does not understand what do they need to have in place to enable this to happen. So we have a training component in this particular program, which will train, we are targeting to train at least 2,000 micro and small and medium enterprises, so that within their enterprises, they can assess their readiness to conduct e-commerce and where we find that they are lacking certain things, we actually advise them. If it's something that they can invest in, we advise them. And we also help to onboard them into existing e-commerce platforms. You know, there are quite a number. You have Jumia, you have Sky Trade, you have a number of marketplaces. You have even on Facebook, for instance, how do they advertise? How do they market their stuff on Facebook? How do they market their stuff even on LinkedIn, even on Instagram, and so on and so forth? So we also have a partnership end of this, where the e-commerce platform providers, marketplaces are also coming in. So once we've trained, then we channel them into all these marketplaces.
Very important. But now, talking of opportunities that are there when we talk matters e-commerce and MSMEs is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. What opportunities lie for the MSME sector in the AFTA arrangement?
The Continental Africa Free Trade Area just came into effect a few months ago, and I think there's still a lot of work to do, a long journey to go for us to really realize the full impact of the opportunities that there are there. True that there are many opportunities, but I think a number of countries, a number of African countries are still not prepared. It's a very, very good thing. Regional FTA of the scale of Africa, I think, is actually the biggest currently in terms of the number of countries in the world. So that's a very, very good opportunity. Remember, Africa does not trade more with itself. We trade a lot more with countries outside Africa. So an FTA that is envisioned within the treaty under Africa is actually a very, very good thing for 55 countries. But remember that if you look at our industrial infrastructure, we need to really rev that up so that we begin to produce high value, or we add value to our products, so that we stop or we reduce importing labor outside by ensuring that whatever we are currently importing, we can actually produce that locally within Africa and trade amongst ourselves. That will retain a lot of value in the continent and also in our countries. So that requires a country like Kenya, for instance, to look at the opportunities that there are there. We have a relatively strong industrial infrastructure in Kenya relative to the other partner states. I think there are only a few countries that are ahead of Kenya. If you look at South Africa, maybe Egypt, and a few North African countries, but Kenya is in a relatively stronger position to take more advantages. So we need to look at our export strategy, our trade policy, and support mechanisms, incentives to really help businesses add value so that we can begin to trade high-value products with our neighbors. And that will also compel us to start investing in regional infrastructure like roads, like railways, to enable us reach a lot of countries that are in the hinterland. Very few countries actually have commerciable ports. A lot of African countries are actually landlocked. So we'll also, getting into these opportunities will also compel us to invest in transport and logistics throughout the continent. And I think that's something we can do at a continental level under the AU.
Definitely. And thank you very much, Victor, for bringing that in and putting it into perspective. In the next 10 days, head of states for the East Africa community, countries will be meeting to discuss some of this issue. And we see in the whole of East Africa, only 3 countries have ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So some of these things will be considered to at least convince the rest of the countries to come on board so that we see the Africa Continental Free Trade Area rolling and people are able to trade across the borders smoothly and with a lot of ease. Thank you very much, Victor.